Welcome to Hardcore Sports Podcast. I'm Zach Humphrey, alongside my partner in crime, Ross Kennedy. Ross, how are you?
Yes, Zach, I'm doing well. Thanks. It's a lovely day here in Northern Ireland, so I'm enjoying myself. It's great to be back for another podcast. We've got a few things lined up for you today. We're going to be kicking the podcast off today with a few breaking news stories. Julio's on the move, possibly. We've got full capacity stadiums, a big time kicker who has played in the league for numerous years. He's retiring, so we've got a lot to talk about there. We've also got another player we're interviewing later.
Yes, and he's our first defensive player, Manuel Najera, and which I think is going to be really interesting to hear from the opposite side of the ball. And then we'll be finishing off with a discussion about position changes, something that's been the story of this off-season, and I think that'll be really interesting to talk about too.
Definitely.
But to start off, as you were alluding to, the big news of last week was about this infamous kicker, and he's the kicker of all kickers, in my opinion. Yes, Adam Vinatieri has retired. After 24 seasons in the NFL, and an amazing career has finished. And I'm pretty sure it's going to end with him putting his gold jacket on and being enshrined into Canton, Ohio in the Hall of Fame.
Definitely, it would be a crime if he wasn't inducted in. And you look back at some of the players who have gone into the Hall of Fame, you know, just this past year, we've seen, the likes of Calvin Johnson, we've seen John Lynch, a few guys who, great players. And you look at the types of players who are getting in now, and you think to yourself, well, how could Adam Vinatieri not be amongst this company? And as you say, he's one of the best kickers, probably can be considered the best kicker of all time, drafted back in 1996 to the Patriots. And, he had a long career there and then jumped into the Colts, another great period there. And he just, wherever he goes, he seems to not only bring up the locker room with him, but he kind of gets the teams into playoff games and steps up in these big moments.
I'm going to fact check you here, Ross. He actually wasn't drafted, and that's what makes his career so much more impressive. Was he started off playing in Europe? He started off playing in the NFL Europe, which people might be surprised to hear that the NFL actually did have a league in Europe. And he started off with the Amsterdam Admirals and did well there, but he did well enough for Belichick to bring him in. He beat out the starting kicker, started his career with the Patriots. But the thing that makes Adam Vinatieri the most impressive kicker, no doubt, is how clutch of a guy he was. He was placed in situations time after time and kicked the points that led the Patriots to hoisting the Lombardi. In Super Bowls, the game winner against the Rams in Super Bowl 36, Vinatieri. The game winner again against the Panthers in Super Bowl 38, it was Adam Vinatieri with the seconds winding down, and he scored in the fourth quarter of Super Bowl 39 against the Eagles to finish the score 24-21 in favor of the Patriots. But he went on to the Colts, and not only did his ring collection end there after the Patriots, no, he went on and won with Peyton Manning and the Colts in Super Bowl 41 against the Bears. But for me, the most impressive moment of his entire career was that 2001 divisional round game against the Raiders, known for the tuck rule, which started the Patriots dynasty. But if you haven't seen it, please look it up on YouTube. It is insane. There was a blizzard in New England, and he kicked a 45-yard field goal to take them to overtime. Amazing. It was absolutely insane. But
I've seen that, and this is a guy more about than me, Zach. So you will be fact checking me, and I was sleeping on that one. But Adam Vinatieri, definitely a player to consider for the Hall of Fame, and it probably won't take him long to get there either. He should be first ballot in my opinion,
definitely,
and I think you would say so too. But honestly, a kicker, it'll be strange to see a first ballot for a kicker, but we'll see what happens there. Let's move on to a player, though, that I maybe know a wee bit more about. But you can maybe fact check me again. We'll see, it might happen. Julio Jones, Atlanta Falcons legend, wide receiver. He's on the move. And in my opinion, it was only a matter of time he's been in Atlanta for his whole career. He has never won a Super Bowl. Probably one of the players alongside Larry Fitzgerald who definitely deserves a Super Bowl from this kind of era, the 2000s. And Julio, he went to Super Bowl 51 against the Patriots. He came close there. We all know about the 28-3 whole fiasco that happened. But I think it's about time that Julio gets a chance at another team and to make a Super Bowl. And from what I've been seeing already, he favours the teams who have a shot at it this year.
Right, and I don't think anybody would blame him. I mean, he was drafted in 2011. He's 32, and he's obviously dedicated enough time and energy to Atlanta where he feels like I've accomplished what I was drafted for here, and I think it's time for me to move on. And I think ever since Tom Brady left New England to go down to Tampa Bay, and going and obviously what followed was this whole ring chasing culture now, which has entered the NFL. Players are going to leave the situations they're in if they feel like they're going to better themselves on another team in another city. And so here, I think, Julio, depending on the teams who will offer, what draft picks they'll offer, he could end up setting himself into a great position. And I want to know, Ross, where do you think if Julio Jones is traded and put into a team that team has a fantastic chance of going to the Super Bowl? What are your favorite picks?
So, yeah, that's a great question. The thing you have to keep in mind here is that a wide receiver over 30 has never gone for a first round pick. And it's going to be the same with Julio Jones. We've been hearing the rumors over the past few days. It seems to be a second that he's going for. And I think, yes, okay, he's a big time guy, but in the past, there has been kind of questions about his injuries and his kind of, is he ready to play? Is he ready to compete at the same level he has done over the past 6-7 years that he's done it the best? And yeah, okay, a team will put forward a second round pick to take the chance on him, because this is a guy that not only is going to make your offense better, but it's going to lead you to that, possibly it's going to lead you to that big game in February. And I think there's plenty of teams that want to get his signature. You look at the Titans. Derrick Henry has done his due diligence in trying to get Julio to the Titans this offseason. Another big contender is my own team, the 49ers.
Yeah.
And then there's also the Seahawks are now entering into the question. But in my opinion, I think he goes to the Patriots. And the reason for that is that Bill Belichick has pulled the trigger on big-time moves this off-season. You look at Hunter Henry, who he snapped up a tight end, and he wanted more out of that. He went after Jonnu Smith, another tight end. You ask yourself, do you really need two big-time tight ends? And the answer to that is no, but Belichick did it. And he took the chance and he paid the money, and he'll do it the same this time. He's gonna offer the dying minutes for Julio Jones, and he's gonna get him on his team, and it's gonna make the Patriots a team to contend with once again in that AFC North division.
Yeah, definitely. I think last year it left a bad taste in Belichick's mouth, and I don't think he liked whenever he looked at the division and saw where the Patriots fell. And as you say, injuries are now a question whenever you talk about Julio Jones, and especially last season, it was injury plagued for him. He only played 9 games and he missed the rest of the season after week 13. However, this amazes me that he still finished 31st in receiving yards out of 200 players around the NFL.
Amazing.
For me, I think Tennessee's a very good pick. I think with him and AJ Brown, if you remember last year, went pre-game and was wearing a Julio Jones jersey. So he's obviously a big idol for him. And I think, whenever you double team Julio Jones, that frees up a lot of opportunities for AJ Brown there. And I think that would be a great duo together. However, for me, if I'm Chris Ballard at the Indianapolis Colts, I go and get Carson Wentz, another weapon. They have a good receiver core with T.Y. Hilton, who I believe is criminally underrated. but they also have Pittman as well, who finished his rookie season there last year. And so I think those three together, not only would they, give Carson some targets, but I think they would work well together. One takes the double team or a triple coverage, and that frees up opportunities for others. And I think, the Indianapolis passing game would be fantastic if they got Julio Jones.
Yeah, the Colts is a great landing spot for Julio, but I don't think they're in the race for him. And the reason for that is they gave away a bit of a haul for Carson.
True.
But I suppose you never know. It's always an open competition. Another team that are possibly in the conversation is the Los Angeles Rams. They kind of are still looking for that number one target for Matt Stafford, the QB they brought in from the Detroit Lions, a big-time guy. You give him the wide receiving core around him, and there is a high possibility that he could take a team to the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, whatever team he ends up on will be better after the trade happens. And no matter what they give up for Julio Jones, I think it's a win for the team that receives him. But moving on from that, it's really positive to see as we're moving forward, especially through all this COVID, the teams are opening up their stadiums to full capacity for their fans for this incoming season. All teams but two have opened up their stadium for full capacity, and that's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so inspiring, and I think Roger Goodell is not the kind of guy who would take a risk, which if he hadn't researched every avenue, every possibility. And I think what they did with the NFL last year, even towards the end of the season, having fans into the stadium at limited capacity with masks was very impressive. But with the London games coming back, that obviously shows the direction that the coronavirus response is going, and the direction the NFL feels is appropriate for them to buy in with the stadiums. And I think 30 out of 32 teams have said that they will have full capacity, with those two teams being the Colts and the Broncos, who aren't. However, they're making steps towards that. And, I think it's fantastic for the league. Not only the salary cap went down this year due to the loss of revenue that they experienced this year. However, I think that having bums on seats, that's exactly what the NFL will want. And that's what we as fans will want. That's exactly being there is fantastic. Watching it on TV is good, but actually being there is fantastic.
And as we saw in other sports, take football, it's not as good when you don't have the fans bringing that atmosphere. It's much needed. I think at the end of the day, it's what sports is all about. It's the atmosphere that the fans bring, and the players know themselves that when there's people in the stands, and people, when there's crowds there, it brings up their game too. It elevates their game when they know that there's people cheering them on, and it just isn't the same. This past season we did see a few people in the stands, not as much as the usual kind of number, but I think it will only lift the players' confidences seeing fans with possibly their jersey on their back, and
for the first time.
This is what the players play for. This is what they love to see. And it's great that Roger Goodell has managed to put this in place for the 30 teams that are going ahead with it. And I'm not too sure who the two other teams are. I'm not quite sure, but whoever they are, I'd imagine by the start of the season, all 32 teams will be involved in this.
All systems go, definitely. And, I remember watching NFL Mic'd Up this season, and the first game of the season, JJ Watt is sitting on the bench going, "This is so strange. Like, it's so quiet. I can actually hear the blimp go over us." And, you look at that and then compare it to, whenever he was Defensive Player of the Year, running out to NRG Stadium with the American flag, doing the Superman rip of his chest, and the entire stadium erupting at JJ Watt. That's what it's about. It's the energy, it's the excitement and the passion. And so, going forward, I can't wait to see it come back.
And, not only NFL games benefit a crowd, but it's also those college games and high school. Part of my love for the college game is the sheer atmosphere of students and alumni who attend these games and show the support for the school. And it's amazing. You look at the types in Nebraska, right? Out in the middle of nowhere, they don't have a pro team, but their college team, absolutely immense. The atmosphere is absolutely immense there. And, as you and I have both done, Last Chance U. And if you haven't watched that, it's on Netflix, a great show that both Zach and I would recommend. The high school two of the high schools now that I've watched that are featured on there, it's Mississippi and Laney College. Two teams with great support and great following. And you look at that, and it's amazing. The crowds are, they're great, and they're willing the players on, and the players are playing for their fans and their families, and amazing. It's great to see. And another thing that's great to see is the fact that OTAs have returned. Rookie camps are back to normal. Training camps are back to normal. Something that wasn't quite normal back in 2020. And off the back of it, we saw a sheer amount of injuries in the players this year. You look at my team, for instance, the 49ers. The one thing that kind of held them back from the playoffs was the fact that they were injured. Their whole squad was basically injured in the first 5 weeks of the season. So it's great to see those return.
Yeah, and not only for injuries, but for player development. I feel for the players who are, the rookies from last year, but also the players who are in new systems or maybe didn't feature throughout their rookie season and they were in their second season, who, need need those reps, need that experience with the team in order to build chemistry, and to learn new schemes and learn, to be coached properly, and all that was taken away. So, I think this year it's going to help a lot of players. And, in particular, I do believe that Drew Lock will, in Denver, he will definitely allow him to develop further and to learn off Pat Shermer and to build more chemistry with that wide receiver core, especially on a young team.
And you mentioned Drew Lock, and he's a great example of someone who's going to benefit from this. And another player who, in my opinion, will benefit is Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback out of Alabama, came in last year, virtually had no real contact with the team over the off season. In terms of when he joined, it was very limited. But he'll be coming in this summer, and this is going to be make or break for him, in my opinion, because this is his first kind of shot at a proper off season, a normal kind of off season, and this is his chance to shine. And this is where we learn what the real Tua can do. And, for all those Miami fans out there, you'll be on the edge of your seats. Same thing with you Denver guys. And there'll be a whole load of teams who look at their last year rookies and this year's kind of crop of rookies, and they'll be expecting a lot because, they've got the chance now to succeed. They've got the chance to do it now properly. And, this is the real kind of time where it hits the fan, if you get me, and I won't use the worst term there that you could possibly use, but this is when it gets real.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to wrap up the news, and then we'll come back and with our interview with Manuel Najera, which I think will be a fantastic discussion. So stick around.
Okay, welcome back to the podcast. We're joined with Manny Najera, a linebacker out of Jamestown. He's played at Jamestown. He's played at Mayville in North Dakota, born in LA. Manny, great to have you on.
Yeah, appreciate it. Love to be on, man.
The first question I kind of want to put to you is, you're a linebacker. Some of our listeners here may not know really what that position entitles, what you have to do at linebacker. Give us a kind of a wee bit of insight into what you do at the linebacker position.
So my job as a linebacker has always been to read run first, make sure to know where the running back is at, and basically touch everyone and give them a little love tap, everyone that runs in the center of the field. So
definitely, and that's what you do. And watching your tape, you're definitely giving people, as you said, a little love tap. That's definitely coming into your game, and you're giving them much more than that. You're almost sending them to, as we would say in our country, you're sending them to the shops, and they're not coming back, man. You're sending them to the locker room, to the IR. But yeah, you're play linebacker, but you've also played a wee bit of hybrid. You're kind of hybrid. You're playing a wee bit of safety, a wee bit of defensive back. What does that position entitle, and what allows you to kind of go between the two positions?
So that I mean, in high school, I played outside linebacker, but never to the level of where I'm playing deeper than 15 yards. So when I started playing, as the DB or hybrid linebacker, my coach would tell me that just stay on him. Like it's not different. It's basically like playing man. You just got to stay on him.
Yep.
And when I first started, I was kind of nervous because I had never been that deep in the field.
Yep.
So it took a long time to get used to it. I think I spent all of fall camp just focusing on that, not getting too nervous being
because
back
when
there
you look at defensive back, it is a very isolated position, and those kind of deep balls over the top, very much on you to defend them. If you don't, it's your fault.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure on you back there, and linebacker, not as much pressure. You're kind of a wee bit closer to the ball, closer to the line of scrimmage. You have a wee bit more protection around you. There's a wee bit more there's definitely guys flanking you, either side of you. Whereas, when you're back there, defensive back, safety, corner, man to man, it's all on you. And if you mess up, it could be game over.
And some
Zak,
of those guys are athletic.
Yeah, no, and
athletic.
Yeah.
Manny, one of my favorite things is whenever I interview guys is finding out a bit about your journey, a bit about your background as well. And I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about, your childhood and your upbringing and how it led you to football, and as well, how maybe that changed your approach to the game as well.
So, I grew up in South Los Angeles, known as South Central. I come from I don't want to say single parent. My dad was in and out of my life, but he was always around, but he was in and out also. How I got into football, I don't even know if let me see. I guess it would be from playing on the street with friends, family members, cousins. So you play a little football on the concrete, scrape your knees a little bit, and
you're not going full contact there, are you?
Oh yeah, full contact.
Oh man.
And you play with the older siblings or cousins, and they don't really care. You're there for the full experience. It's like playing in the Super Bowl every Sunday.
Yeah, and I get that. It's kind of the equivalent to where we are. A big sport here is soccer, and a lot of the kids in the area play at low levels, but they view it as such a high. It's so high for them. It's such a big. There's such a lot of expectations put on them to play, even at the low levels, and it's the same in America. I'd imagine that playing football at any level, there's a massive amount of pressure on you. You put a lot of pressure on yourself to play at a high level. Want to raise your game to the pro level. Whatever game or whatever kind of situation you're playing in. And that leads me on to the next question. So you obviously grew up in LA, and you didn't get into football maybe until a bit later. Why did you choose to move to North Dakota to play football, to continue this dream? You're a walk-on at Washington State. You tore your ACL.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to kind of continue your football career at Mayville and Jamestown, two schools that are way out of the way in terms of lifestyle and weather?
Yeah, well, as a walk-on, when you're a walk-on at a big school, you don't get anything paid for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're basically either getting a loan or you're working a job, or it's intense,
Mm-hmm.
like it's stressful. So I came back, I tore my ACL and I went back to LA, played at Glendale College for a year. I had to sit out a year because the whole rehab process, it's intense. So I always had the vision of, and one of my high school coaches told me that I could get a scholarship, for college and basically go for free. So I always had that vision where I wanted my college paid for, and before even going into high school, I didn't even know what college was. I just thought it was just 8th grade high school and then that's it, and that's the mentality everybody has, where I come from. So I don't know, I just wanted to graduate. I wanted a degree, first generation graduate. I just graduated in May earlier this month.
Congratulations.
So that's
very good. Congrats. Yeah, big congrats to you.
So I just wanted a degree.
That's amazing. And I think it's such a mature approach as well. That, and it's amazing as well because football has opened doors for you there, not only for you as a sport, as an athlete, you meet other guys, it teaches you so many personal skills, but it's provided you with an education, and that's something that's going to set you up way beyond your football career. And I think that's absolutely incredible. And, and as well, football has given you the chance to experience life on the other side of America as well. I'm sure life in North Dakota is very different to life in LA, not as Ross alluded to, not only for football, but what was that like, changing from a completely different situation, completely different setting as well for you on an everyday life, but also with a football standpoint as well, playing in a different type of weather, I suppose?
Well, I always told myself, I don't care. I just want to play football. It's that passion.
Yeah.
So even I could go to Ireland and play football.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll do it. I don't care. You know what I'm saying?
You wouldn't get very far here in Ireland, I'll tell you that. You wouldn't
get the weather.
Yeah.
Man, that weather. How cold does it get in Ireland?
Oh,
very cold.
So I'll tell you one thing though, the weather is always chopping and changing here. You never, one day you could have a lovely, 20-degree day, and then the next day it could be snowing.
But rain.
That's how it is here.
It's mostly rain
all over the place. Yeah, mostly rain. But yeah, you chose Mayville. I'm looking at Mayville and Jamestown. Did you have any other offers on the table, and why did you turn those other schools down, and why did you accept the 2 schools from North Dakota?
Yeah, I had who did I have? I had a school. I had 2 schools in Kansas. One of them was Sterling College, and the other one was Bethany College. That was my first school to offer me. And I'm gonna be honest, they weren't offering enough money.
Okay.
The money wasn't, it wasn't enough money. And there's passion for the game, but also I needed to get my degree.
Understandable.
And loans, they become an issue later in life. So
definitely
I felt like I needed more money.
Yep.
And like I said, Mayville had new coaches. When I looked them up and I was looking to transfer from my junior college, and they had just signed an ex-NFL, ex-USC coach. Like he coached for the Cardinals. He went to UW, USC. He had a really good rap sheet. So I was like, man, I'm trying to make it to the next level. This is it right here. Even if it's an NAIA school, this is a great coach. And he made me into a freaking DB. So he must have been a hell of a coach,
Yeah, definitely. And as you say, guys who are the coach's resume can bring and attract players to schools, and that's what it seemed to do for you. Now, you obviously moved then, you made the decision to jump to Jamestown. What went behind that decision? Why did you choose to transfer?
So that same coach ended up leaving. And So I kind of felt like, man, I don't know who they're gonna bring. We just had a pretty bad season, and the town was like I don't even, maybe like 1,500 people, so it wasn't a big town. But I was fine with it, you know. But I felt bad, you know, with the coach leaving. I didn't want to be a part of the program anymore. So I looked into other schools, and I had some decent offers too, like probably better from coming out of junior college. And I chose Jamestown because, first of all, I don't know if, man, Coach Mistro, that guy has more energy than anyone I've ever met. That guy was amazing. So I talked to him, and I got to look around the school, around the community, and I just fell in love, man. Like the culture here is amazing. I love the school. I'm proud to be an alumni from here. Proud.
And that's one of the things, you know, we get such an insight now to schools, especially through Last Chance U, a Netflix series. I don't know if you've watched it yourself, but Zach and I have both watched it, and it just gives you a wee kind of bit of insight into what goes on at these smaller schools. And I think sometimes the smaller schools have the best atmosphere at them because everyone knows everyone, and, you know, guys get opportunities, and the goal, yes, it remains the same, to make the NFL, but, you know, they get to play week in, week out, and put things on tape that they mightn't get to do at bigger schools. And the fan bases for those smaller schools are just amazing. We were saying actually earlier on the show that, you know, the NFL has now chosen to put their stadiums to full capacity now, 30 out of the 32 teams. And but you have to remember that high school and college have the best atmosphere, sometimes better than the pros. And as you say yourself, the town was great, the atmosphere was great, and that's what, you know, kept you in Jamestown. So that's great to hear. And I kind of want to step away from football, I want to step away from the field, and I want to kind of go onto your kind of like before games, you know, preparation, you know, watching film. How important is that to you, you know, going into games, you know, studying the offense and kind of studying what the quarterback likes to do, or the tendencies of some receivers on the team? How important is that to you?
100% important. I had teammates call me weirdo because I would go look up the offensive tackle, the guards, look them up on Instagram, Twitter, you know, see if they had a girlfriend so I could make fun of them on the field. I want to know everything. I wanted to know everything, you know?
Yeah.
So preparation from film to everything. I needed everything. And it does make a difference too when you're out on the field.
Yeah.
It does big time.
I think that's something that's a little bit different for anybody who's listening who's new to American football. In football, you know, soccer for you, it gets quite touchy if you call it soccer here in Ireland. You know, people go, "Well, it's not football." You know, and rugby as well. There is a level of preparation, but, you know, it's nothing compared to the preparation that you guys have to go through, and, you know, the volume of meetings that you go through compared to, you know, your time in the practice field. You know, that's only part of it, the actual rehearsal on the field, I'm sure, you know, but whereas the film study and everything and the research beforehand, that's incredible. The fact you were talking there about, you know, how you researched your opponent's Instagrams and stuff to learn about them reminds me.
That's crazy.
That reminds me of I remember Shannon Sharp. He played a game for the Denver Broncos, and he was reciting the guy's phone number, or the guy's opposition's girlfriend's phone number digit by digit in between play. Got him so thrown off that he got ejected from the game. So, you know, it might have a competitive edge there, but that's really cool.
For
you, I want to know. So obviously you've graduated, and I'm not sure. Are you still playing at Jamestown?
No, I elected to move on to the next level if possible.
Is there any kind of plans for the future, Manny?
Yeah, so this year I'm gonna be interning, you know, kind of getting a taste of the real professional world, but at the same time I'm training. I didn't want to rush into, you know, joining a team. I don't feel like I was ready either. Considering a COVID off season and it's just a mess. So I kind of want to give myself a year to get ready.
100%. And myself, I have actually, I had the opportunity to stay this past year, and I chose to put that off and chose to work instead. And life experience sometimes is much higher than, you know, studying or any of this, you know. making money as well is definitely intriguing. And you said there you didn't want to join a team. Did you get offers from NFL teams?
I spoke. Well, I attended a Tropical Bowl.
Yes, I
earlier,
saw that.
Yeah, this year, and I spoke to some scouts. I don't think it was anything serious because you know it's a business and they're looking for the latter guy. But I think I have a good chance playing pro. I mean, even if it's not the NFL, I can go to Canada. I had European teams to reach out.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And I just
Very good.
and I let them know I wasn't ready.
There's so many opportunities now. We say Europe, and there's even now this kind of indoor league. Johnny Manziel's playing on it. Is it the FC something or other? I don't know now, but it seems very popular. There's Canada. Canada has their own pro league, and don't come to Ireland. Wouldn't recommend it, as I was saying earlier. If you want to come to Ireland, I'd say save up, because you're not going to make much money here playing football. But and you seem to have garnered a lot of good response at that Tropical Bowl. I watched your highlights from that, and I think there was a few guys from that have ended up on NFL teams. David Moore, I think, was playing at it, quarterback out of Central Michigan. He seemed quite good. But there's definitely so many opportunities now, and in my opinion, you have the technical ability and you have the physical ability to play at the pro level, and I think it's just a team giving you a chance when you're ready, as you say, to make that jump. But I think moving on now from the serious questions, we've got a few kind of more, I guess, trivial questions, you could say, about, I don't know if you watch much NFL.
Yeah, I do.
So, if you were in the NFL, Manny, who would you want to jersey swap with? Who would be your number one guy, past or present, to swap a jersey with?
Present, it'd have to be Tom Brady. He's the GOAT.
Yep.
He's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Yep. What about past?
Past, my favorite football player ever has always been Junior Seau. So it'd have to be him. He's passed away, but him.
Yep.
Awesome guy.
I guess we were kind of expecting to hear Troy Polamalu. Don't even get me started on trying to pronounce his name.
Polamalu.
I was half expecting to hear that name. But and in terms of Super Bowl contenders this year, who have you got for that?
Man, I don't even know. It's the off season hasn't even ended for these guys. People are still trying to trade for people. So I'm a Rams fan from LA, so it's the Rams.
Okay. Very nice.
Don't know if you saw this helmet in the background. San Francisco
49ers. Oh dear.
Niners.
So you say you're a Rams fan. How do you feel about the trade for Matthew Stafford in this offseason?
He's a dog, man. Matthew Stafford's he's a dog. So I hope he has a couple more years in him. I can't speak much on it, but I hope he's good.
And also, you've got Deshaun Jackson's now on the offense. Plus Julio, I've heard he's been linked with the Rams. Would you be a big advocate for go and get Julio? Yeah.
Well, no, the Seahawks could have him.
Oh wow!
The Seahawks
wee bit of shade has been thrown there. That's unfair on Julio. Come on, I mean he's old now. He's in his 30s.
He's a legend.
And there has been a wee bit of injury concern, but he deserves more than that. Come on.
No, he's a legend. He's awesome. Yeah. I've just been giving a little bit of smoke to some of my friends because of the Seahawks reaching out to him. He's a dog though.
He is, yeah. But here, it's been great interviewing you, Manny, and we've really enjoyed our time with you. We wish you all the best for the future. And, Zach and I both took a lot of time watching your film. And the one thing, the kind of conclusion we came to was this guy is physical. He's driven. And there's a lot, of power in your hits. And, you can read the game very well. So there's definitely a place for you in whatever you decide to pursue in terms of football or otherwise. So really appreciate you having you on, and all the best for the future.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Ross. Thank you, Zach, for having me.
Thank you very much, Manny.
Thank you. Thanks.
Here we are back with part 3 of position changes, and we've just finished our interview, and I thought it was a really great interview, Ross.
Definitely, Zach. And Manny's such a nice guy. He's very down to earth. And I think at this point in our interviewing career, we've been blessed with 2 guys who are really, really nice and very open about football and their lives and what's going on at the moment for them. So yeah, Manny, lovely guy, and definitely got a lot of talent in the footballing world, but definitely with, the media, and I kind of put it like that. We're not really the media, I guess, but even interviewing skills and people skills, very, very much, great levels of attention to detail in terms of the way he speaks about his craft.
Definitely. And for anybody who doesn't know who Manny is, I'd say that's nearly everybody. I wasn't aware of Manny before Ross, showed me some of his film, and I would definitely encourage you to look him up on YouTube to see some of the hits that guy makes. It's incredible. And if it doesn't work out for him in American football, he can come and play for Ulster Rugby. I'd love to have him on our team. I think he'd make some fantastic tackles. So we're going to move on, and we're going to start to talk a bit about one of the themes of this off season, and one which has been the real story of the off season has been one of these, but it's position changes, and obviously, we've seen a few position changes. One that's stolen the headlines, and a couple more have come in the aftermath of it. So we're going to talk a bit about Tim Tebow switching to tight end. We're also going to talk about Brandon Jacobs, who's decided to try and play defensive end. And we'll finish with Kelvin Benjamin, who has recently signed for the New York Giants as a tight end from wide receiver. So Tim Tebow, Ross, I know you're a big fan.
Tim Tebow, yeah. And I think there's a lot of guys listening to this right now from Northern Ireland, from the UK, who know Tim Tebow. He's just that well-known name. He obviously has a past in baseball, and most recently pastor. He's a pastor and a Christian, and what a guy he is, and a great leader of men, and played his college ball at Florida State. No, it was Florida. Sorry, Florida, the Florida Gators. Just an amazing player, an amazing person. But recently, he's obviously signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's back into the NFL, but this time, bit of a strange position. So he obviously played in the NFL before, back in 20. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You might have to fact check me again here, but was it around? I think the last snap he took was around 2013.
Yeah, a quarterback. He finished up around then. He decided to switch to play baseball in 2016. And obviously started to play for the Mets, but he did find himself as a starter whenever he was drafted in 2010, and went with the 25th overall pick to the Denver Broncos. But then floated around the league a bit, and it just didn't work out for him, the quarterback position. And yes, he had one playoff win against the Steelers for the Broncos, but he never really found his feet in the NFL as a quarterback. But yes, he's back. Are you surprised? Are you surprised by this move, Ross?
Okay, so yes, to be honest. But when I watch him in training camp over the last week, no. But initially, yes, I was quite surprised to see him lining up at tight end. A guy who was a quarterback. He was heavy enough for the position when he played there. But when I heard that he was coming back as a tight end, I thought, okay, yes. He is a big guy, but can he block? Can he catch passes? It was even a question, because there was he was put in actually during his time when he was a quarterback back in the 2010s, and he was put in the Jets offense as a tight end or receiver, and he got a target and he completely missed the ball. Now that being said, Mark Sanchez maybe did overthrow him slightly. But, he completely missed it, and it leads you to think, is this guy going to do much on the Jaguars as a tight end? So yes, I am surprised, and I am still surprised, although I am I like the idea of him being back in the league.
Yeah.
And it'll be strange to see him come Sunday, the first week of the NFL season.
Absolutely. And I think for me, yes, I'm a similar response to you. Yes, I'm surprised. Also, I'm not, because yes, it'll be strange to see Tim Tebow playing back. First of all, it'll be strange to see him back in the NFL after such a hiatus, however, I think seeing him at the tight end position, it will take me a while to go, oh, that's Tim Tebow, 85, In another way, I'm not, because throughout his career at the NFL, whenever the quarterback position he stopped getting the starting roles and was a backup, and obviously he, being an ultra competitor that Tim Tebow is, he doesn't want to find himself in that position. He did get offers to play tight end, and there were whispers that if Tim Tebow, made the switch, he could have an incredible NFL career with his body size and his physicality and his strength. And so for me, I'm very excited to see, that question will be answered for us. Yes, he's back. He's 30. He's now 33. However, I still think that there's treading those tires for Tim Tebow, and he's playing under his college coach Urban Meyer, and they have a really good relationship. So it'll be really interesting. And plus, the contract is constructed so that if it doesn't work out, the Jags can very easily move away. So,
that's it.
And
do
you think that he has a very realistic shot of making the 53-man roster, Ross?
Well, I think they have to. I think he has to.
Yeah,
I think even if he doesn't play well enough in training camp, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars and Urban Meyer will have to swallow his pride here on this one and think, yes, I've signed Tim Tebow. He has to make the roster, no matter how badly he plays. If he doesn't, it would be even more of a news story if he went through all this hype and then didn't even play. And that kind of leads me on, Tim Tebow, okay, he's moving to tight end, and that's very strange to see. But moving across kind of to Kelvin Benjamin, okay, he's a wide receiver originally, played on the Panthers, the Bills, to name a few. He's now moving to tight end too, and this is strange because he's a bigger guy, and I did an article on this a while back. Okay, he weighed in at something like near 220 pounds, which is crazy for a wide receiver, really. In fact, I think he actually nearly hit 240, to be fair, one off season.
Yeah.
And that was at his worst in terms of weight. This is a guy who he's been mocked, actually, at the wide receiver position his whole life. But it hasn't been awful, that being said. And he has been out of the league for a few years now, and he's been given a chance to come back at the tight end position.
Yes. I think as well, as you alluded to in your article, you also highlighted it, which is available on the website, about how Booger McFarland infamously said on Monday Night Football that Kelvin Benjamin was a Popeye's biscuit away from becoming a tight end, and that's come full circle.
Definitely.
I think what's most interesting for me is obviously the New York Giants tried him out at tight end, and they were impressed enough to give him a contract, and he's actually walking into one of the better tight end rooms in the NFL. You have Evan Ingram, who's a Pro Bowler, but also they made the move for Kyle Rudolph in the offseason. So it'll be interesting to see what type of a tight end is Kelvin Benjamin going to be. Is he going to be more blocking, receiving, or a mixture of the both? And so I'm quite looking forward to seeing how Jason Garrett, I think he's still the OC in New York.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
how they work it out there next year.
But he's a guy, honestly, I don't think we'll see him outside preseason. You mentioned the tight end room. It's very difficult for me to imagine a scenario in which he stays on that roster. And it leads you to think, will he kind of push himself as a tight end from there on out if he doesn't make the roster? Or will he just give up completely on the stream of football? And, talking to Manny Naj, a guy who, he plays at smaller colleges, Jamestown, Mayville, Washington State. Okay, Washington's a bit bigger now, but, He's a small school guy, and you see the drive even from him. His dream is to make the NFL, and Kelvin Benjamin has got that dream. He's lived that dream, and it makes me, is it the end of his dream? Does he just kind of have to say, right, okay, I've done all I can? In my opinion, Kelvin is trying to prolong a career which was dead years ago.
Yeah, and you could also argue that is this just him trying to stay in the NFL, not dropping out into lower leagues? Is this him just trying to, as you say, trying to just keep his career going? And it's strange. Kelvin Benjamin, he obviously made the Super Bowl with Carolina, and it's been quite a strange journey since then, to see the way that his career has gone, and and these changes, it's created some interesting responses from people throughout. Obviously, with the news of Tim Tebow mainly, there were a lot of people who were very excited to see him come back, but also there were quite a few critics, people who were maybe questioning why Tim Tebow earned a chance ahead of other people. Des Bryant, for example, tweeted about how there was no disrespect towards Tim Tebow, but obviously, how did he get a shot, get another chance to rejuvenate his NFL career? Another player was Brandon Jacobs, who tweeted out this month that there was no way that Tim Tebow was more athletic than he was, and so he decided to switch not only another position but a completely
the other side of the ball.
This. Exactly. So for me, it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Do you think that a team will come forward to take Brandon Jacobs, who former New York Giants running back, who retired in 2014? Do you think he's going to have a shot?
No, I don't think he's going to have a shot, Zach. And the reason I say that is that he himself has shot himself in the foot since making that announcement. A few days after, he actually said that he won't pursue the NFL again because he can't give up some foods that he likes to eat, namely chitterlings, which is basically, I think, the large intestine of a pig.
Right.
Very strange. And he said he couldn't give this food up. I think it's cooked in a way, I think it's fried or something, and it's cooked in a way which makes it more attractive than it sounds.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very appealing. I would easily give that up. Obviously,
I know, but obviously Brandon Jacobs wouldn't.
No.
Okay, I can understand. Maybe there's some foods that might keep you away from the game, but that.
Yeah, of all things.
Yeah.
And you look at a prototypical size of a defensive end. Brandon Jacobs himself is 6'4", 269 pounds, and so yes, he may well fit within that category. But for me, and he stepped out of the normal size of your average running back in the NFL. He was quite unique in that
he was
way.
a wee bit bigger.
But for me, because defensive end is so technical, that the moves that they use on the defensive line, the technicality, the learning the offense in a completely new way, for me, it just seems like an impossible task. However, it's the NFL. You never know what could happen. But for me, with these changes, it'll be interesting to see, especially with Tebow, what way he will manage within the offense. And, will he actually throw a couple of passes? Maybe if they do a trick play, will he be actually making a couple of passes? I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. And it leads you on, will he fulfill that Taysom Hill role that we see at the New Orleans Saints? Such a pivotal role nowadays. I've heard recently that they might actually be trying to get two different quarterbacks to play the starting position.
Right.
A quarterback who can throw the ball and a quarterback who can run the ball. And in my opinion, stupid idea. Just get one who can do both. Why would you waste a starting position on two guys? Why would you waste that roster spot? But Taysom Hill is the kind of guy. He's a Swiss Army penknife. You know, he can do anything. You see him in all types of packages. You know, he's in the shotgun. You know, he's split out wide sometimes. You know, he's in the I formation as a tight end. Sometimes even in the backfield. And could this possibly be what we see from Tim Tebow at the Jacksonville Jaguars? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But definitely something to keep your eye on there. And yeah, this is the kind of role the NFL is making, and it's becoming something which is much more popular.
Definitely. And I think, you know, New Orleans is definitely a unique situation with Taysom Hill. You know, he gives Sean Payton so much more freedom to call plays, different types of formations, as you say, but also play calling. You know, you have a guy there who can catch the ball, a guy who can run, but a guy who can throw as well. And so, you know, and for a defense, you know, you can't really prepare for that, because there's going to be so many unique movements and different types of plays that Sean Payton can call with a guy like that. And so for me, I do think that Tim Tebow will be played in that kind of a role. But, you know, it'll be interesting to see how he starts off. I don't think that's something that will obviously come throughout whenever he's developing. Obviously, at the start, I think him just getting settled down as a tight end will be the main priority. But one thing I always find about the NFL is it's a copycat league. And so with the Taysom Hill situation and the type of player he is and the role that he follows, and as well the amount of money that guy is making, I cannot unsee the fact that he will be, now a player like him will be, you know, feature in many different teams as we go forward.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, actually. You mentioned Des Bryant's tweet. I think there's a lot of players who are either haven't got a chance in the league. You know, the types of Des Bryant, Earl Thomas, even Colin Kaepernick, if you want to go there. There's a lot of players who are retired even, who might look at Tim Tebow and Kelvin Benjamin and Brandon Jacobs and think to themselves, well, if these guys are getting back on board, maybe I can too. And I think there's definitely an opening for the types of these guys to try and make their way back into the NFL. But in my opinion, it's a very, very bad idea, because you have to, it's like a food chain, you know, there's a way in and there's a way out. There's the top of it and there's the bottom of it. And the bottom of it is obviously the rookies coming in. And the more and more rookies that are coming in, you think, well, there has to be people moving up and out. There has to be people kind of moving out the other end to allow room for these rookies to move in. And it's the young guys that get the chances in the league, the likes of Davis Alexander, who will possibly get a chance, the types of Manny Naj, and if he gets a shot, and, you know, you look at the past draft, Trevor Lawrence has just come into the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they've already installed an old quarterback, a veteran quarterback in Tim Tebow. I'm sure below it all, he's kind of thinking to himself, what's going on here? But there has to be room for these young guys to move in, and the veterans have to realize that they've had their time in the sun, and it's time to move on.
Well, you say that, but earlier on today, I went and had a bit of a deep dive, because I knew we would be discussing this change in position phenomenon that's happening. And I looked up, and I was actually surprised to see a couple of guys who we see every week set up in the NFL every Sunday. And I'm talking stars of the NFL who, whenever you watch them in college, maybe didn't appear where you thought they would. For example, Ryan Tannehill was a wide receiver at Texas A&M, which blew me away. Julian Edelman, you know, Super Bowl MVP, was a quarterback.
Calling the shots,
at Kent State as well. Your guy Richard Sherman was a wide receiver, then got injured at Stanford, came back at Stanford, and JJ Watt, the superstar, now Cardinal defensive player, was a tight end at Central.
And, you know, they could do with him a tight end again. Honestly, the Cardinals need a tight end, so here, you never know.
And we saw that at the Texans. You know, JJ Watt's actually caught a couple of touchdowns on offense because of his experience at tight end. Plus, he's obviously scored a couple on defense because he's an all right stud. But you know, and the interesting thing with JJ Watt was he walked on at Wisconsin, as a defensive end, because he trusted in his ability that he could you know, it would better him
You
as
could
a
do
player.
that, yeah.
So that I thought that was quite interesting. That, you know, obviously you may have your preconceptions about these changing positions. However, you never know. It's worked in the past for other guys.
It has worked in the past, and you've mentioned them all there. But I think I still have to disagree. You know, you're mentioning position change at the college level.
Yes.
Okay, these are guys who are young. They're changing positions, you know, when they're young. And I think the whole college experience is to try and figure out what you're best at.
Yeah.
And, you know, JJ Watt, yes, okay, he got a wee bit of a glance at the tight end position. He figured out, though, that defensive end is where he should be. The difference is that these guys are old, and yet they're trying to shape themselves into a way that they could fit in today's NFL. And they have to realize that 34, 35, 36, you know, 40, up to 40, these guys are far too old to be in the league. Yeah. Which is funny because there's plenty of guys at that age. Like, you look at Tom Brady, he's still playing.
It's not slowing down.
But there's a lot of guys who can't do it, and that's an anomaly.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, and it's interesting, and we will definitely keep an eye on it in the upcoming season. And that's one thing that makes the NFL great, is that you never know what could happen, and there's so many exciting parts about it. And so 100 days to go until the NFL season kicks off.
100 days we're counting down. And that's 100 days. I can't wait. I really hope you've all enjoyed today's show. We've talked about some big topics today. We've covered, you know, the Julio Jones situation. We've covered, you know, the OTAs coming back and the full capacity, and, you know, we've covered all the position changes, and we got to talk to a great guy from North Dakota area, which he's kind of hailed from.
Yeah.
LA originally, but Manny Najera, what a guy. Great to chat to him, and we'll be back next week with another college stud out of James Madison. That's all I'm going to say. Tight end. So keep your eye out for that. We'll see you again next Tuesday. So come back and give it a wee watch next week. Thanks for listening.